Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Friday Night NGS action. We are in Division D West tonight, having probably one of my favorite matches of the week coming up tonight. We have TRSG Knights going up against the Core Bouncers. My name is Isaacs. Welcome all coming in to join tonight. Both of these teams are, I know, pretty darn well, and both are having pretty interesting seasons so far, or have had pretty interesting past seasons. The TRSG Knights, they're coming in and having just a freaking hot start to the season. I believe they have not dropped a single map yet so far in this season 11 in Division D. They are in, I think, like the number 2 or 3 seed, but that's just because they haven't played as many matches yet. They're undefeated so far. I don't think they've dropped a single map. Meanwhile, Core Bouncers, they were our Division E champions last season. They won the entire thing in Season 10, got bumped up to Division D, and are now playing against some pretty tough opponents here in Division D. So they've had a little bit of, I wouldn't necessarily call it a rocky start, but it's not all gone according to plan for them. They're not, able to be at the top yet. I believe they're like in like the 7th or 8th spot right now, but they're continuing to grow every week. They're getting better. They're showing that they can hang with a lot of these Division D teams and start taking a couple maps from them. So I don't think there's any better way for the Core Bouncers to have a strong showing than tonight against TRSG, who haven't dropped a single map. So, with all that hype, let's get you guys over to the map interview so you can see what has gone on so far tonight. The TRSG Knights Core Bouncers won the coin toss. They elected to go with first pick. That means that map pick went over to TRSG Knights. They started our map bans and they banned out Infernal Shrines and Volskaya Foundry. I had to tell Holland Knight, thank you for banning Volskaya. I do not like that map at all, so I'm glad I do not have to cast it tonight. Meanwhile, the Core Bouncers banned out Battlefield of Eternity, boo, and banned out Towers of Doom. So we had 6 maps to choose from, and the TRSG Knights are gonna take us over to Brax's Holdout for game number 1. And Brax's Holdout, one of those really fun kind of hold an objective. That top lane is just going to be a really interesting skill matchup where we actually get to pay attention to what's going on in the top lane. The 4-man in the bot lane, it could be a spicy team comp, but you generally want to get strong early game champions on Brax's Holdout because of how important that first objective is. This map can turn into a very, very quick snowbally map if the team that gets the first objective can create a very strong push with that first Zerg wave and get the entire Zerg wave in their favor and deny the opposing side any type of Zerg threat. So we're going to be really interested to see what these two teams decide to pick. Champions like Garrosh, who can just sit on a point and hold it all day. Johanna, who can sit on a point and hold it all day. Strong assassin champions that have a lot of that early game playmaking potential, like a Sylvanas, like a Jaina, like, there's so many to think about right now. I just haven't. Let's talk about the ones that we may not actually see because they aren't the strongest in the early game. Champions like Raynor, who can provide some great damage later in the game, but doesn't have necessarily the best wave clear potential for the Zerg wave. So we may not see a Raynor pick up on these maps. Hanzo can go either way. It really depends on the person whose hands they are in. Lunara, she can provide great vision and get across the map quickly, but she has terrible wave clear. So teams have to incorporate all these things into a map like Braxis. Getting wave clear is very important on a map like Braxis. So we will see potentially Jaina. We will see Kael'thas. We will see Gul'dan. All those champions we may see come out here. Meanwhile, we haven't even talked about what's going to happen in the top lane, where we're going to see bullying champions. The Sonya, the Arthas, the Rexxar, all potential viable champions that we could see battle it out here in the top lane. So we'll see how these teams elect to go. They've got about 4 weeks of data on each other so far. So we could start seeing target bans. We could see meta bans. So we could see the core bouncers getting certain champions banned out that they tend to favor. TRSG Knights could get certain champions that they tend to favor banned out. Or we could see the Chromies getting banned out. The Rexars getting banned out because of their just how strong they are on a map like Brax's holdout. So we'll see how these two teams start. We are underway in our first draft. Looks like we're getting some fans kind of trickling in here as it goes along. Fujin throwing out the CCS flare in chat. Love it. And we're getting some core bouncer fans coming in. I'm sure TRSG Knights are going to have their fans come in as well. But first ban, gonna be that Diva, able to use her mech to just annihilate an entire Zerg wave, and also has pretty good zone control. There are champions like a Sonya who could definitely bully her off. Phoenix can bully her off. Arthas usually has a pretty good timing against the Diva, but Diva has great Zerg clearing potential with that mech. Brightwing getting the axe here, going to be able to negate the fact that Brightwing can swing that top lane in favor of the Bruiser by teleporting up to that top lane, and also being able to utilize that polymorph to negate a lot of the early zone beacon potential there. Jaina getting banned out here by the core bouncers. Jaina, one of those strong early burst potential here. We got some fans shouting out with their points. A lot of people saying that they're here for the gambling. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have all that stuff turned on when I cast. I'm considering starting to change some stuff for all those joining in. Things like follows, subscriptions, cheering, all that. I have it all turned off when I'm actually casting because I don't want to interrupt the actual cast. But I do notice it. Fujin, I noticed you just threw out on the follow. Thank you so much for that. I do definitely notice it all, and I appreciate everything you guys use to donate. So I will get those things up and running for things like redeeming points and stuff like that here in the foreseeable future. But for now, Varian gonna be the first pickup coming out of the core bouncers here. Potentially could flex into the offlane, but more than likely going to be that taunt Varian. We'll see if the TRSG Knights are going to elect to steal the Stukov away, but there's other champions that are pretty viable on this map that can follow up with the Varian. The Uther's still available. The Malfurion's still available. Even the Anduin is still available. So we may not see the Stukov getting picked up when we see a Tychus and Tassadar. Tychus going to be able to be a beast of a shredder. Varian is one of the champions that does a little better against the Tychus, but Tassadar going to be able to get into that Archon, going to be able to put down a lot of damage on a small map that constantly has fighting, and it's a takeaway from Nemesis, who does tend to favor the Tassadar pick. So taking it for themselves coming out of TRSG Knights. Meanwhile, Malfurion going to be the pickup over the Stukov there because of the extra mana and the zoning potential Malfurion can provide there. He's typically seen as a little bit stronger in the early game than a Stukov. Stukov definitely hits his spike later and can put down some serious burst healing. And then Gul'dan to follow it up coming out from Nemesis. No gambling, but my addiction. I'm sorry. This is a gambling-free zone tonight. We are here for fun. If you need to fill your addiction, there are casinos available in Las Vegas. It's only a 3-hour drive from LA where I'm at, so you can go there. I mean, you could throw out, you guys can bet with imaginary money, but I promise I will get that up in the not too distant future right now. So do apologize for all of that. But we do see the Raynor getting banned out here for the side of TRSG. Not going to allow Raynor onto this map, which he can provide. So I was kind of bashing on Raynor earlier. Didn't follow up the rest of that thought. Raynor with the Hyperion can provide a lot more pushing and siege power if you can win over the minion wave. So Raynor definitely has his abilities, and if he gets late enough into the game, Raynor can really take control on a map like Brax's Holdout. But I don't think he has a strong enough early game that you really have to work a composition around Raynor on a map like Brax's Holdout, which relies so heavily on the early game. Meanwhile, we see Anduin and Mei being picked up by TRSG. Anduin going to have a lot of those follow-up stuns to lock down whatever target that Mei decides to prioritize with her crowd control, setting up some easy burn down targets for the Tychus Tassadar burst damage coming out, even with those high health tanks that we're going to be able to see. The amount of lockdown plus the special delivery light bomb from Mei is going to be awesome. I'm curious to see if this is going to be a snowball Mei or an avalanche Mei or an ice wall Mei. I anticipate it's going to potentially be an avalanche Mei, but that will be determined when we get to 10s. Meanwhile, Cassia and Sonya picked up. Not necessarily the biggest fan of Cassia yet, just because a lot of these members of TRSG have distance. You know, they're ranged attackers. There's no like melee fighters. They don't have a huge front line outside of the Mei right now, and whatever their flex, which is going to be a Leoric. So Cassie's got to get by them to really put down her damage. She is got great follow-up for a variant taunt, so she will be able to jump on the target and provide burst damage there, but she's going to have a little bit of a difficult time getting to the Tychus and getting to the Tassadar, and Anduin will be able to provide a lot of that utility. But Sonya, I do like. I'm banking on this potentially being a leap Sonya. And Sonya is going to be able to have some pretty fun times up there in the top lane. But, looking at these comps, I mean, I like both things. I like a lot of what I'm seeing so far out of TRSG's composition there. They do have an answer for the variant, an answer for the Sonya in the Tychus Tassadar right there. The Leoric is going to be terrifying to deal with when he does go for that tomb. I mean, he could go with the kneeling peasants too, and since they have the Cassie and the Sonya and have pretty significant value there as well. So we'll see what Leoric eventually decides to do, but I anticipate Leoric's going to have a pretty good time. He's not going to get bullied around too much here in this top lane. So it's going to be a pretty skilled matchup up in the top lane, and we're going to see which team is able to rotate faster to give support to that top lane. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, this 4-man, I definitely think the first couple levels are going to go to TRSG Knights. Once Credit Clown gets his taunt online, that playmaking potential coming out of the Varian Malfurion is going to be huge, especially if they can get it onto a target that Captain John wants on that Cassia. Then I would definitely start saying the core bouncers are going to have some strength going up to that level 10. Once level 10 is obtained, I'm starting to lean more back towards TRSG. So we'll see what the core bouncers can do in that small 4 to 10 range. Meanwhile, let's get these teams introduced in the blue trunks on TRSG Knights. We got Hollow Knight sitting on the Tychus, Pink Blackout sitting on the Tassadar. We got Celium, I'm guessing, sitting on the Mei, Cherry Glue sitting on the Anduin, and we've got Thana sitting on the Leoric. Meanwhile, we've got Dan Solo sitting on the Sonya, we got Credit Clown on the Varian, Nemesis sitting on that Gul'dan, Captain John Jay sitting on the Cassia, and we've got Captain Garbo sitting on the Malfurion. Talents coming online. We see a lot of stacking quests coming out for the side of the core bouncers. Malfurion, Cassia, and Gul'dan all playing for getting to that late game. Gul'dan will be able to stack up fairly quickly here in this bottom lane, being in the 4-man. As long as he's allowed to hit these corruptions, he should get himself fairly stacked. Cassie is going to, infinitely stack and continue to build off of that. And we're going to see this Malfurion get some good stacks. But Tassadar going for that auto attack build, looking like he's going to go into that Archon as expected. Meanwhile, Tychus going to get some increased auto attack range. Going to make sure that he can play pretty safely against this variant, attack him from a little safer distance, not make sure that he gets close enough that Cassia can get a good engage. Both these teams playing very passive here in the early game. Just kind of waiting to see what's going on. I do definitely think this favors core bouncers a little bit due to the fact that they're wanting Varian to just wait up till he gets to level 4. Right now, Varian's a glorified NPC. He just doesn't do anything in the first 4 levels. But once he gets to 4, that all changes like a switch, and Varian will be able to get in there and just start causing massive amounts of chaos. Meanwhile, in this top lane, Sonya getting bullied around in the early game. It really depends on if Dan Solo can avoid that draining grass coming out of the Leoric. And we see TRSG already sneaking in a camp over here. The core bouncers are responding in tow. This this objective is going to go straight over TRSG, and Sonya's got a duel a Leoric, which she does get hit by the Leoric Grasp, and this is going to be a dead Sonya in the top lane. First blood going over to the side of TRSG. Leoric securing that solo kill in the top lane. Meanwhile, the channel has begun for the side of TRSG. Varian getting walled off by the Tassadar, ends up going down there as well. And this early game, as expected, going heavily in favor of the side of TRSG. Core bouncers just got to sit and wait to get that level 4. You know, maybe send somebody up to assist this Sonya in the top lane until 4s are achieved and just kind of surrender a little bit of that bottom lane. But Sonya's going to go over, try and stop this channel, already sitting at a hefty 70% there. And Gul'dan gonna try and get himself healed up here. I don't think they're gonna necessarily be able to win this battle in the bot lane quite yet. Credit Clown's gonna come on in, but as soon as 4 comes online, if Anduin or Tassadar steps a foot out of line, that is going to be one dead member. But meanwhile, Sonya getting flanked on up here by the Tychus there. Grenade hits, but it doesn't necessarily knock her back, and now 4s are online for the side of the core bouncers. Varian has his taunt. He has come online, and he is looking to make a play on whatever target he can find. Unfortunately, May's not the one. He's going to go in. He doesn't land the taunt yet. Unstoppable pop by the May with the passive. Cassie just trying to provide some of that extra damage. Gul'dan walking himself to safety, going to be able to get himself healed up off the May, and now this bottom objective may start to be in control for the core bouncers. They have to be very carefully on the side of TRSG, get some poke down, find that pick onto the Gul'dan. Varian jumping in, but does not pop the taunt onto the May, looking like he wants to try and find that squishier target in the backline, which is the correct play. Corruption going down, putting down some hefty damage. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Leoric is just bullying Sonya. Sonya, unfortunately, just can't compete with the amount of drainage potential and the sustained potential coming out of Leoric. Varian goes in, doesn't land the taunt onto the Tassadar there. Kind of holding onto that taunt, using it as a threat, but does put it down on the May. May getting pulled out by the Anduin to safety, and everything going back to square one here in the bot lane. But Leoric just being an absolute bully in this top lane. Sonya will be able to, as long as she can avoid that grasp coming out of Leoric, will be able to go toe for toe. Once that grasp comes out and lands, Sonya's in big trouble. But root landing onto the Cassia in the bot lane. Tassadar sitting fairly low in the mana pool, isn't going to be able to put out the burst damage, but the taunt does not connect from the Varian, just kind of, again, holding onto it. He knows May's not his target. He's trying to find this backline, but they're sitting so safe right now, making sure that they don't get picked off. They're awfully low on mana, still on the Tassadar, electing not to go all the way back. Probably doesn't have his pool up yet, but nobody, unfortunately, was there. So Varian holding onto his taunt rather than wasting it on a target when both of his DPS were backing to get themselves healthy again. But May getting herself fairly low here. The taunt could go down onto the May now. Unstoppable is popped. Credit Card lands a taunt onto the Tychus instead. Gonna get shredded down, and that is going to be another kill going over to TRSG Knight. I think once they caught the May out and knew Anduin's pull was down, that would have been a pretty decent time to taunt up the May and finish the kill. But ooh, we got a root going down onto the Andia. Cassia is committing to this damage, but not really having much follow-up there. Gul'dan just playing the patient game. They're delaying this very nicely now, the side of the core bouncers. They've held it at 90% for about 3 levels now. Howlin' Knight getting rooted out there on the Tychus. Captain John just trying to get in there, do all his damage. Meanwhile, Nemesis having a one-on-one with Tassadar. We have the entire cavalry has a ride for the side of the core bouncer. Sonya rotating all the way down, trying to make a play in the bot lane. Unfortunately, everybody was backing, but this is pretty good pressure. They're going to get a nice little siege here in the bot lane. And again, they've delayed this objective. They don't necessarily need this top objective to Leoric. They've got the better siege potential right now. Gul'dan sitting on 29 stacks. He needs just 11 more to finish off that echoed corruption build, and then he will really start being able to pump out some serious damage. Meanwhile, Malfurion rotating up, gonna give Sonya the heal, gonna try and get this pick onto the Leoric here. Sonya's got to play carefully, doesn't quite get herself to safety. Cassia is here, but Leoric able to just wraith walk himself to safety and get away, and this is a turn of objectives. Bottom was captured by the Tide of TRSG core bouncers, maintain control over the top lane. Gul'dan's gonna have no problem at all clearing out these minions, so it's a nice rotation up by the core bouncers to try and get a sneaky pick onto the Leoric. Meanwhile, the side of TRSG, they're going to pick up their own siege camp and start this siege process. Captain John electing to stay in the top lane on the Cassia. Meanwhile, Sonya is going to come and present in the bot lane, try and get some sort of change in pace going here. This objective is starting to actually channel in favor of the core bounces here. Cassia going to try and do this 1v1 against the Leoric. She will not be able to do it very successfully, unfortunately. The Gul'dan getting stunned out by the Mei there, getting himself fairly low in the health pool. Malfurion is going to be able to give him some health, and this objective again picked up. Captain John actually doing a very impressive job. Leoric has to fully back there, so now this channel is getting pretty high for the core bouncers. They're doing a great job. As long as Credit Crown and Dan Solo can hold off this bot lane, this switch was actually a really good call coming out from the core bouncers here, with Cassia being able to abuse. Credit Clown's like, sup, I can sit here all day. I'm Varian. Goes in. Does he find the taunt? He does not land the taunt onto the Tassadar. Nemesis getting rooted out there, but that is actually first objective being picked up by the core bouncers. Mei getting rooted out. Passive is popped. Unfortunately, the purse coming out of the Tassadar does miss onto the Nemesis, the Gul'dan, and Captain John's going to put some pressure up here in this top lane. I mean, the siege, the wave clear potential definitely favoring core Bowser right now. The Gul'dan, ooh, 10s have come online, and it is going to be that ice wall coming out of the Mei, landing on both the Malfurion and the Gul'dan. Meanwhile, Varian gonna try and just zone everybody off. A pretty good defense coming out of the core Bouncers. The core fort is starting to fall. Meanwhile, this top fort is about even pressure, but it's just Captain John here up in the top lane. He's not going to be able to provide much more for the Tassadar, but Variant jumps in, lands a taunt onto the Mei there underneath their own turret. Leap goes in from the Sonya there. Gul'dan hits the Horrify, but only on to the Tychus. Glide Bomb going down. She does land it onto two members, both the Sonya and the Gul'dan, but now has to run due to the 4v5 situation. This objective was picked up, however, by the side of TRSG. They do get the early fort. That's going to provide some pressure in the bot lane with those siege minions, and overall pretty even fight so far. You know, the narrative is playing out as expected, with TRSG having a very strong pre-4 fight. Core Bouncers coming back big in this 4 to 6 or 4 to 10 range, and now we are post 10. I start to say it's going to lean a little more back towards TRSG in the post 10 game, but the Core Bouncers have excellent pick potential with the Sonya leave and the Horrify coming out of the Gul'dan with the lockdown taunt variant. So if they can find those isolated picks and get that target burned down, Core Bouncers will potentially win a lot of these fights. But if it's just straight 5v5, ooh, Mei landing a nice 3-man snowblind and lands the ice wall onto the Malfurion there, but there was no follow-up that was able to deliver any sort of damage there, and everything goes back to how it was. They just don't have enough sustained damage on the Core Bouncer side to be able to do long team fights right now. They got to get those bursts, but Captain John gonna start seizing up this Leoric in the bot lane here. And the side of TRSG, they just need to find a 5v5 team fight. I mean, now that 10s are online, I think they definitely have the advantage on any sort of sustained team fight, but we didn't really get these ultimates introduced. We saw some of them pop out in the flare between these two Zerg waves. Leoric did use the Entomb there to get the isolated kill onto the Cassia. One of the disadvantages of having Cassia in that lane is she can't get herself to safety from the Entomb, where Sonya can just leap herself away. But the Core Bouncers respond by getting a lot of pressure onto this. Light Bomb is popped down on the Mei, but it does not connect. A silence, 3-man silence coming out of the Malfurion, but the Ice Wall does land onto both Captain Garbo and Nemesis there. Mei's Snowblind is going to land onto Gul'dan, sitting in a very dangerous situation. Nemesis trying to get himself to safety, gets the Echoed Corruption. It puts down a significant amount of damage, but unfortunately, that's all that it's going to be able to do. The TRSG Knights getting a big kill, and Leoric getting a nice siege here in the bot lane, getting some significant pressure going on to this keep wall. Meanwhile, the side of Core Bouncers have to back away due to being a man down. Leoric starting the channel, and this objective is starting to get channeled for the side of TRSG Knights. They have the advantage in the bot lane. They really only just have to fight over the top. Meanwhile, wall going down. Sonya looking like she wants to pick a fight, but Gul'dan is not here yet. Credicon getting rooted out on the variant, gonna have to back himself away. Leoric has rotated all the way up. Cassia is channeling the objective at bot lane, so Ice Wall goes down, lands on Malfurion and the variant. The Entomb does miss this variant gets rooted out by the Enduit, but Sonya still gets destroyed, electing to try and go back in, create something out of nothing, and Malfurion getting stunned out by the Light Bulb. Nemesis getting stunned out as well. Black Hole is popped from the Tassadar, so instead of going for the Archon, electing for the Black Hole play, and the Drill being dropped by the Tychus to start sieging down this top fort. This is going to be a potential second fort. A 3-man corruption landed by the Gul'dan, starting the drain onto the Tychus. Pings go down, but Anduin safely able to pull away his own teammate. Channel starting again for the side of TRSG, and now that both forts are picked up, this is where that snowball potential can happen on a map like Braxis. It's really tough to get control. Nice wall coming out of the Tassadar there. Fantastic wall, picking off both Credit Clown and Captain John, getting blown up on the Cassia, and that's another pickup for the side of TRSG right around this objective. They're gonna get this mercenary camp for good measure, pushing with this massive Zerg wave. Meanwhile, Leoric's like, sup, I got an Ultralisk and a Hydralisk. That's about it. I'm going to put some pressure in this bot lane, but the top lane is going to have this huge Zerg wave getting pushed all the way into this keep wall, and it's up to the core bouncers, mainly Gul'dan, to deal with all of these Zerg that are incoming in the top lane. Core bouncers are committing all 5 members to this defense, as they should. Leoric, they got that bot lane pushed out pretty significantly, so they can spare a few moments, and looks like they're having a pretty decent job clearing out all these Ultralisks. They do have, like I said, a lot of wave clear with the Gul'dan. Keeps sitting at about 75% health right now. Ice Wall goes down, does land onto the Gul'dan. May putting the Snowfield down for good measure, but unfortunately they just don't have the follow-up due to the taunt variant. No DPS can get anywhere close in range for the fear of the variant. Leoric is here looking for that perfect entomb target. The Horrified does land, but I think Leoric had just gotten his Unstoppable off, so it doesn't actually fear the Leoric, and everybody on TRSG backing up. So the keep is saved. That is step 1 for the core bouncers. Now they need to find those picks, and they really don't want to find them until their 16s are online. Trying to find this pick around the 16-14 is pretty sketchy unless you have sight on one member of TRSG being away. Meanwhile, TRSG, they're just trying to paint this map as blue as they possibly can and get all of this experience advantage, deny the side of the core bouncers any type of experience here so that they can make sure that they get to level 20 way before the core bouncers are even remotely close. So Braxis, again, being that small map and having these 2 forts down, it's going to open up the opposing team's pretty much their entire camps to the side of TRSG. They are going to have, it's kind of like that Hanamura kind of map where once you get control over those 2 forts, you have control over the entire enemy team's side, and you just rotate as 5 and try to pick it all up. The Tassadar is seen in the top lane. I think it's wise for the core bouncers just to let these waves kind of passively push in, because they should have time before, ooh, the May catches both the Gul'dan and the Malfurion out. The Tomb does go down. Light Bomb being stunned out only on the variant. The leap goes down by the Sonya, and she's actually getting some huge damage here. We may have a pretty good turnaround. Almost all ultimates have been built. Dan trying to run away on the Sonya. Meanwhile, Credit Clown getting himself to safety. Gul'dan getting rooted out there does eventually go down, and Credit Clown will follow. It looked like the play potentially was there. May was sitting very low. Tassadar was sitting very low. Tychus was sitting very low, but they just didn't quite have the damage to finish any of those 3 targets off, and they all were able to get fully healed up by the Anduin and get 2 kills, 11-0 in kills, favoring TRSG Knights. They are going to get a great siege on this keep, potentially pick up the entire keep. We still have 10 seconds on the Gul'dan and the variant, so this keep will go down. Sonya committing to getting a little bit of farm in the top lane, and that is a keep traded away for the side of the core bouncers. TRSG just rotating safely, gonna pick up some more camps, get this objective. They eventually will pick up this camp. I believe they're gonna pick up this camp. Maybe they're not going to pick up the camp. We'll see. But Leoric does scout out the Sonya. 16s now are online for the side of the core bouncers. So now the core bouncers are looking. If there's ever a time to find a good fight, now is that time. I expect them to go down and take this objective first. Make sure that that channel is interrupted before they go find that fight. Meanwhile, the side of TRSG, they look like they want to contest this and they want to end the game right here, right now. May getting caught out by the Malfurion. Varian going in, does land the taunt onto the Mei. She has her passive available. Leap going down on the Sonya, trying to finish off this Mei. Mei has not popped the passive yet. Ice Wall go down, catches Gul'dan yet again. Mei has just had a beat on for this Gul'dan, but we do see an excellent pull. Valkyrie coming in from the Cassia there, picks off the Tassadar, and that is a kill going over for the side of the core bouncers. They now have the man advantage, and they are going to push over this top objective. Varian goes in, lands a taunt on. Anduin does not have the pull this time. Light Bomb does go down. Mei getting very, very low, but unfortunately not able to get finished off here. Leoric does come over to try and body block and actually sacrifices his own life. Meanwhile, they are just stalling because this wave is pushing into the keep. The core bouncers have to respond. Cassia is here to answer. I don't think she's going to get it in time. Meanwhile, the rest of the core bouncers going to try and pick up this boss. The entire side of TRSG is coming over to contest this. That is only 3 members right now, but Varian getting stunned out here. Gonna get blinded, hit up by the the boss, and getting fairly low. Sonya going in aggressively here. Captain John now is here. Sonya leaping herself to safety, and this boss is putting some damage down to the Mei. This definitely favors the side of the core bouncers. If they can get this Sonya healed up, they should be able to pick up this boss, and it's a kind of a do or die moment for them. They do get the boss. Mei electing to go in for this fight. Taunt landing down. Look at the burst coming out of this Tassadar's damage, and that is a pickup onto the Variant. A 2-man entomb with the Light Bomb in tow. Sonya getting stunned out. Goodbye, Gul'dan. You are destroyed, and that is 3 kills going over for TRSG. The benefit is they do have the boss pushing in the Zerg wave. That will provide a lot of delay for potentially to get Variant back on, but the rest of the TRSG, they're pushing as 5. They don't even care about the boss. They want to end here. They should be able to end here. Tyka's dropping the drill. Everybody getting in on the siege game. Captain John doing everything he can to make sure this Leoric is interrupted here. Malfurion going in, lands the silence onto 3 members, but that doesn't matter. This core is absolutely shredding. GG's. Game 1 going over to the side of TRSG Knights. Alrighty. Pretty solid game 1. Kind of played out the story how we kind of expected it to go. The core bouncers were definitely showing a lot of fight and spice in that 4 to 10 range, which is when they needed to maximize as much of their comp as they could. Unfortunately, the side of TRSG, they had built up enough lead and were able to position themselves safely enough that Varian just wasn't able to land the taunt onto the targets he wanted to. There was a couple times where he got the Mei, and it looked like they were going to get the Mei, but I think, what ended up happening was Sonya was having such a tough time against Leoric. She had to go into that bot lane, and Cassia had to go up into that top lane. Cassia had a much better matchup and had much more success against the Leoric, but they lost a lot of that kill potential in the bot lane. So Varian was like, guys, I'm getting these targets down or taunted, but they could only get it to about 20% HP, and then that target would get away. So it kind of stalled out that mid game, losing that kill potential in the bot lane, which is where the core bouncers really needed their composition to come online and shine, because once 10s came online and get that first objective, because once their 10s came online, the 10 game definitely favored the side of TRSG unless they were able to find some sort of pick play around the Valkyrie, around the Horrify, around the taunt, which they did find in that one fight at their 16s, but that was really the only time that anything was made with that comp. Meanwhile, the side of TRSG, they drafted a very good, safe composition that was, able to execute well when they got to their 10s. Tassadar electing to go with that black hole, maybe picking it up. They got their 10s first. I have to go back and see when he exactly picked up that black hole, because it does provide that counter engage against the Varian taunt and against the Sonya leap. They knew Varian had the taunt already. Maybe they were anticipating Sonya was going to go leap because they knew that they were positioning well, and so they just wanted to get that extra disengage against that full-on engage pick composition that the core bouncers were going to have to rely on. So Tassadar just being like, yep, we're already in a little bit of a lead, so I'm just going to pick the safe defensive play to make sure that they can't get onto me and Tychus, and then we're going to shred. But look at the damage coming out of Nemesis on the Gul'dan. 68,000. He got those Echo stacks pretty quickly there, was able to pump out a lot of damage in some of these team fights, but unfortunately they just didn't have enough follow-up damage that he got them low, and we could see many times they got low, but they just weren't able to finish them off. So I think the TRSG Knights definitely had a very good draft phase Rays came out, showed a very solid performance with the composition that they draft. Hats off to that. Let's see where we're going to go for this game number 2. First pick and map pick will go back to the side of the core balancers. When they had this map option with the coin toss, they elected to go with first pick. Maybe now they get onto a map they want, or they elect to just say, hey, we want first pick again. Maybe we're going to take away the Tassadar for Nemesis. Maybe we're going to take away the Tychus for Captain John. Maybe we'll take the May for Credit Clown because Credit Clown plays May. So we'll see how they elect to approach this draft strategy in game number 2. Meanwhile, I'm going to send us on over to the maps so we can see what options we have left in front of us. Looking at what's to come, we've got Alterac Pass, Dragonshire, Tomb of the Spider Queen, Garden of Terror, and Cursed Hollow, all still available for potential pickup for these two teams. I don't believe any of these maps are necessarily screaming core bouncer maps. I know TRSG does do fairly well on a couple of these maps. I think they do fairly well on Cursed Hollow. I don't remember. I know Howland was saying she hates walls, so maybe not Tomb of the Spider Queen. But outside of that, I don't know really much more. I don't know about Alterac Pass or Dragonshire, how these two teams really like playing it. I know core bouncers that play Dragonshire fairly well. Doesn't necessarily mean they like it and will pick it. So we'll see what actually happens. I'm just going to leave these talents. Actually, I'll throw you guys back over to the talent screen so you can assess the builds that were coming out of these two teams here. Looking pretty standard so far for most of these champions. Sonya just electing to go for that single target burst build, which allowed her to put some heavy damage down onto the May when Varian did land that taunt, but unfortunately it just wasn't quite enough. May did decide to go, for that ice wall, which definitely did provide a lot of value. Like she had a bead on that Gul'dan, and Gul'dan I think was caught in almost every single every single ice wall that that May threw down there. So okay, is it Celium? Celium? I don't know, but they're in chat and they're saying, woohoo, I no longer need to play. And I was like, I don't know why. You played a very good May game. Like I was a clutch performance on May right there. I was super impressed with that. So I wouldn't necessarily woohoo. I was like, man, I want to see you go again. Run it back or something like that. But maybe we're getting a potential sub coming out of here for TRSG Knights. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, the only thing I could say for drafting differently is maybe electing, they saved theirs. I got hats off to TRSG. They saved their last pick for their offlaner, so they wanted to get a favorable matchup in the top lane. So it's really hard to be like, okay, well, we got to pick our offlaner. Salem. All right, there we go. Salem. I'm the sub. Okay. Like Salem, like Oregon or Massachusetts. Okay. I don't know why I couldn't say it, but Salem. All right, cool. Salem the sub doesn't have to play anymore, but subbed in and delivered a gem of a performance as the sub. It's always a good feeling when your sub can come in and, as much as a tank can, carry the game. So that's pretty fantastic when on the side of TRSG when they can have a strong sub appearance like that. So major props to Salem there. But yeah, I mean, I when the side of TRSG has that last pick potential and they save it for the offlane, I mean, you just got to pick what you feel the most comfortable on. And he's pretty confident and comfortable on that Sonya, but Sonya into Leoric, especially at the Leoric, can keep landing that grasp. It's really tough to have that matchup because Leoric has that just much better sustain on a map like Braxis where you got to fight over the objective. So Sonya can't use her whirlwind to sustain up over that objective. So it gets a little bit challenging. But I did get the map invite. We are going to Alterac Pass. And it was the core bouncers that elected to pick this one up. So the core bouncers are the one who this time decided to pick map pick and are going to send us over to Alteric Pass, which is kind of a fun map. Also, I don't know who messed this up, but for some reason, the core bouncers graphic is like raised for some reason in their PNG file. So like everything, it's supposed to be centered, but instead like they bumped it up. So it's like the top 2/3 of the graphic, the bottom 1/3 is just this invisible space. And so I had to like adjust everything to make sure that they like lined up. So I had to bring the core bouncers graphic down a little bit on everything. But unfortunately, I couldn't do that on like the map selection and in their in game. So it looks like they're like hiked up and everything. I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. So, but Alteric Pass, 3-lane map, objective, can be fought over, but sometimes teams just elect to ignore the objective and go for more of the macro game, trying to get that camp on a on a timer, and just out bullying and out pressuring the off lanes in a map like Alteric and using the 3-man just to delay, like finding a good delay pair like a Stukov Leeming, Stukov Chromie, Gul'dan, all these champions that are able to provide that delay over the objective while you get some pressure in the off lanes. And so we'll see if either of these teams elect. It looked like the side of TRSG, they went for a very team heavy fight comp, so they may try to push the objective narrative. They're all hopped up on Mountain Dew. Okay. Love it. I'm hopped up on red wine. It's pretty good. But yeah, meanwhile, the side of court bouncers, I'm trying to think. I know they have an Asmodan. So Vaughn, I mean, I know they have a pretty big pool, so they may be able to put down some macro pressure as well. I don't think anybody on either team has a strong like Lost Vikings, as far as I know. Doesn't mean it's not there. It's just I don't know if they have a strong Lost Vikings or not. You could come out with like a really crazy like Apather Chocall comp. That would be so fun to see. I don't know if we're gonna see that one tonight, but both teams are on a little bit of a bio break real quick. So we're gonna be a few more seconds, but definitely give up your support for your teams. Also, thank you to the 2 follows that I got during that cast. Thank you so much for showing your support. Definitely appreciate it. For those of you who have not dropped a follow yet, you can absolutely do so. I let everybody know when I am going live. I throw up my schedule on Twitch as best I can. And what I have not done yet is I have not signed up for my next week's matches. Oh, Salem saying, I'm the Knights TLV player. Well, there you go. But yeah, for those wanting to know like when I go live and when I'm casting, drop a follow and then I'll make sure that you get that notification. Cast a lot. I think this is like my 4th cast this week. I cast a lot of the late games on NGS. So I'm on the West Coast, work till like 5:36 and then have to drive in LA traffic. So I'm usually home around that 7 o'clock hour where then I can start picking up games and casting. So, that's usually about the time I jump online, get a lot of these late games. I think this week I was spent most of my time in Division C. I had a Division A game, but it got canceled or postponed, I guess. Tonight we're in Division D. Early on, I was doing a lot of Heroic and Nexus Division, but they kind of started slotting for those earlier game times, and I just couldn't quite keep up with that. And so I haven't been able to pick up some of them recently, but if a team is on the West Coast, they will get picked up by me in the evening time. For those on the East Coast, most people are asleep by the time I cast, so sad for them. But again, thank you so much for all the follows. Definitely appreciate it. And looks like these teams are getting themselves back. I'm going to drop my ready for everybody to make sure they know that at least the caster is ready to go. It looks like we're getting readies coming out of the side of TRSG. Core Bouncers are saying they are ready as well. We should be hopping into this game number 2 very quickly. And we'll see how these teams elect to adjust their strategies going into a bigger map where a macro game is a lot easier to have than on a map like Braxis Holdout. But here we go. TRSG Knights gonna come in, be our first pick. If you want to see TRSG Knights take us to an early night 2-0 series, drop your flare in the chat. If you want to see the Core Bouncers come back and take us to a game number 3, drop your support for the Core Bouncers, and I'm hoping, I always love going to a game number 3. It's my absolute favorite thing to see is the series go all the way. Farrell, just discovered you after getting back into HOTS, and I have to say thank you for all your hard work. It's stupid early here, but can't sleep and wait when the entertainment like this going on. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the compliment. Dude, I love this. This is one of my absolute favorite things to do. I'm just sad I didn't get into the casting game sooner. I unfortunately didn't quite have the setup available. I still don't have a webcam available to set up live casting yet, so you can all see my smiling face when I'm doing a lot of these series. It's definitely a lot of animated. My wife walks by all the time when I'm casting, is like, dude, you're like throwing your arms all around. I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. It's so exciting. So but yeah, I thank you again. I like I said, I really love doing this, and I'm definitely looking forward to this season of NGS. This is going to be an awesome season. So, but let's get to this game going here. Alternate Pass, we see Brightwing getting the ban here. Not going to be able to provide that global presence. And Lucio, a lot of support champions being banned out by the side of TRSG. Definitely pinching a little bit of Captain Garbo's pool, favoring both Brightwing and Lucio. So we'll see what Captain Garbo decides to come out here on Alternate Pass. Meanwhile, Gazlo getting banned out by the Core Bouncers. Their second ban, they are anticipating taking their dear sweet time to finish out what they want to do. And we do see the Anubarak. Salem being a little biased in the chat saying, come on, Knights, keep up the undefeated. I mean, heck yeah. I mean, when you're, I think there were 6-0 going into this series, now 7-0. So that's always exciting to see when a team is having so much success like they are. If there's ever a team that I think could bounce them, though, that would be the Core Bouncers. So Tychus, first pick coming in for the side of TRSG Knights. Going again, rolling it back for Howland Knight on the Tychus. Had a pretty strong showing in game 1. But we see May and Tassadar, as we said. I know it feels like eons ago at the end of that game. How could the Core Bouncers respond? And my thoughts were maybe take the May and the Tassadar away. They do so. Tassadar going over to Nemesis. May being stolen by Credit Clown. And the Core Bouncers are like, we like those camps. We're going to play them too. Or sorry, Heroes. Champs are League of Legends. Heroes are Heroes of the Storm. Varian and Chromie, they take back the Varian. Teams switching up their main tanks here, and Chromie being picked up by the side of TRSG. Chromie, I don't think it was banned game 1. I'll have to go and double check, but I don't know if it was banned game number 1. But Chromie does wonderful things on a map like Alternate Pass with the delay. She's able to get on her under the safety of her own fort and just continually harass people trying to channel that objective. So that's going to have to be factored in when the Core Bouncers decide if they want to play over the objective, and they have to lock down that Chromie and make sure she is gone before they start to do so. Anna getting the ban out from the side of the Core Bouncers. TRSG banning out the Anduin. This is a massive support pinch coming out of the side of TRSG. Captain Garbo's like, dude, what's going on here? I got to find something. I mean, we saw him play the Malfurion in the last game with a May. I mean, Anduin would have paired beautifully, but that is a no-go. They're going to have to find something. I mean, we could see the potential for an Ariel. I don't know if Captain Garo plays it. He goes with the Malfurion again. Okay, so, but Sylvanas, Captain John Jay's specialty champion. I think that was what was banned out in game 1 rather than the Chromie. Captain John Jay loving the Sylvanas, gets the Sylvanas, and this is turning into what I consider a classic core bouncers composition. I'll wait until they're picking their last pick to see what rounds it out. I'm anticipating a champion, but we'll wait and see. Uther and Ragnaros coming in to round out TRSG's. Got the lockdown and the front line for this lockdown variant, and I'm wondering now if we're going to see the Sonya make another appearance here. He didn't have the best success in a game 1. Going up against a Ragnaros will do a little bit better there, but if it's a Sonya, this is a classic core bouncers composition here. What? Okay, Medivh. I did not know Dan Solo played Medivh. That's why I had that response. Holy moly, we got a Medivh. All right. Well, this just throws everything I was thinking with out the window here. The playbook has been tossed aside. Secret strats coming out for the core bouncers. Dan Solo gonna rip a Medivh here, and we'll see if he's able to support these 2 damage dealers, keep that Mei alive, and get to that backline. Find a way to get to that Chromie, kind of teleport everybody past the Uther variant and say, surprise! Alrighty, I mean, Medivh X Factor in this series. I have no idea how Dan Solo plays on Medivh, but I'm looking forward to seeing it here. But here we go, getting into game number 2. I definitely think TRSG Knights got a composition that they can execute well. Core bouncers, like I said, they had a very standard core bouncers comp until the Medivh comes out. So, I mean, we'll see how that comes out, but I think these 2 teams are going to have a much closer game number 2. There's going to be a lot of scrapping going on around these objectives because neither team has a super strong macro game outside of Ragnaros' Lava Wave at level 10. So that is a factor to keep in mind. But here we go, game 2 going underway. Shout out in chat who you're flaring for. If it's the core bouncers, I want to see some TCBs going out. If we're going for TRSG Knights, let's get some of that purple, what is that? Purple, blue, yellow, red, rainbow colors coming out in the chat supporting our Knights here on Alterac Pass. Somebody is cooking a potato or something. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like we have somebody getting a little bit of internet issue. There we go. Resolved. Now we're loading into the game here. And we will get game number 2 underway. For the side of TRSG Knights in the blue side, we've got Chair Glue on the Uther. We got Pink Blackout sitting on the Chromie. Holland Knight sitting on the Tychus. Charmalang? That was the sub, or that was the main that the sub for. Charmalang. Charlemagne, I'm guessing. And Thana sitting on the Ragnaros. Meanwhile, on the side of the core bouncers, we've got Captain John Jay sitting on the Sonya, Credit Clown sitting on the Mei, Nemesis sitting on the Tassandar, Captain Garbo on the Malfurion, and Dan Solo, you can't see his name, but he's flying overhead on the Medivh. And here we go. Now it's the side of TRSG going for the stacks. Varian, instead of not going to be a Parian Varian, going to go for that Lion's Maw, get that extra damage on the Q to provide a little more of that burst damage onto the taunt target to help out that Tychus and Chromie finish it off. Chromie going for the full burst, going into the Q build, going to be able to provide a lot of that burst damage onto whoever gets taunted out by the variant. Tychus electing to continue with that safe range auto attack with the level 1. And meanwhile, we've got the core bouncers going with their standard. We're going to see this Nemesis elect to go for that auto attack on the Tassadar. Medivh going to get some portals going for his team. And we will see. I'm really curious how this Medivh is going to factor in right now. Charlemagne. Yep. Once I was pronouncing it and looking around, I was like, wait a minute, I know this name. Of course I know this name. I just can't pronounce it well until I do. And then I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. Charlemagne. course. But we do see core bouncers going ahead and picking up their own siege camp. Meanwhile, the side of TRSG, they're picking it up as well. Varian going to be able to get some soak, see if he can get this pushed in. Mei is going to run back over here to make sure she doesn't lose any of the soak in the mid lane. Meanwhile, got a Nemesis matching up against the Ragnaros in the top lane. Medivh going up against the Tychus, just here for some soak. You technically want the Medivh to be a little more aggressive, but Sylvanas had to go and pick up this objective, so Medivh not going to get those beautiful stacks that he wants to get. Up to 40 is the magic number for Medivh. We'll see if he can get there. Meanwhile, we do see the Varian start to put down some damage here on these siege minions. Gonna make sure that he can get an early push for his team. The taunt does land onto the Sylvanas, but Captain John's like, see ya, I'm out. You only got the Chromie. Chromie's got some burst damage, but doesn't quite have enough. Medivh is here to provide some stacking capabilities, but he did leave this bottom lane, meaning Tychus is going to get this lane pushed in. Ragnaros is pushing in the top lane, and TRSG getting ahead with that early macro game here in game number 2. Mei gonna go in and try and create some sort of chaos onto this Chromie. The wall goes down, they catch the Chromie, but unfortunately with the 3-man they got, Tassidar's already burnt his burst damage, so he will not be able to provide any more follow-up onto that Chromie. But who does Charlie main? I love what's going on in chat right now. This is fantastic, guys. Keep it up. But this first objective is coming online here. TRSG has a slight advantage so far. Objective camps are sitting on about 8 seconds apiece, 10 for the side of TRSG. We'll see if the teams elect to fight over their objectives or go for camps. If I was the core bouncers, knowing where this first objective is, my focus would be on getting camps, because of the fact that, ooh, the taunt comes down from the Varian, picking off the Tassadar Chromie with the follow-up damage, and that is going to be first blood going over to the side of TRSG Knights, but they're not done. They're continuing to hunt. They've got great positioning here, able to get the channel off right away. Meanwhile, the core bouncers, they are trying to get some sort of experience back in their pocket. Gonna go ahead and give up this objective, but nobody's going to pick up the camp. They look like they're potentially setting up like they want to try another contention here. Sylvanas is still in the top lane, not able to rotate down. The objective only has 6 seconds left. Tassadar is here. They're going to go and just try and win the fight, and now they back off. So they were there, elected not to go for the fight, didn't get the camp to respond to the mid lane pressure, and so that's going to help TRSG Knights get a nice push in all 3 lanes here. But core bouncers were able, since they kept Captain John in the top lane, they were able to shrink that experience lead ever so slightly, so they're not falling too far behind. We'll just see what kind of pressure is created with all these objectives. Both teams committing heavily to this top lane. 5 for the side of TRSG, 4 for the side of core bouncers. Tassadar is going to babysit the mid and bot lane, and the core bouncers are setting up for some massive defense. Darian goes in, lands a taunt onto the Malfurion. Protect goes down from the Medivh, but that's not enough. That is one dead Malfurion doing a nice fancy flip as he makes his exit. Meanwhile, the Mei trying to get some sort of distance between her back line and that Varian. Varian taking a couple tower shots here, has to back themselves up to make sure they're not taking any more, but this top fort is going to go, and this Ragnaros is going to get in here and say, hey, this is now mine. I have borrowed it. You cannot have it. And Medivh going to get himself to safety. A nice 3-man stun coming out of the Mei to make sure that there really was no follow-up on the Medivh. And the rest of the side of the core bouncers, they're going to commit to clearing this up. Mid lane was already cleared. Tassadar finishing up the remnants in this bot lane. And yeah, here we go. Early pickup by the side of TRSG, but remember, on a map like Alteric Pass, picking up this isn't spelling doom for the side of the core bouncers. The boss scales off of armor. We do see TRSG getting here, aggressive camp invade, lands on the Malfurion, but the Medivh is there to provide the protect. Credit Clown able to get on the other side, but the loop is coming out. Nice unstoppable pop by the Mei, making sure she doesn't go for a ride in that temporal loop, but the camp steal is successful for the side of TRSG Knights, and they are able to continue to grow this experience lead. Meanwhile, the side of TRSG, they're going back. They're going to get some experience soaked up here, and they're going to be able to create a lot of map pressure in this bot lane. Looking like they may potentially start to get this camp and then set up some sort of boss play in the bot lane. I don't think they're gonna necessarily go for the boss. It would be pretty risky. If they had their 10s, they could set up like a fake boss, but Medivh is able to scout very well being in that, and safely being in that bird form. Medivh sitting on about 28 stacks, still has to play fairly carefully until he gets those remaining 12. But look at Ragnaros getting stacked up. Uther almost done with his quest. Varian about 3/4 of the way done. Chromie, not so. Chromie's got to get a couple more Qs going. Looking for that magic number 40. Only at 14 right now. So she's got a little bit of real estate to work with there, but the entire side of TRSG starting to siege up this bot lane while Ragnaros puts some pressure in that top lane. 10s are online for all teams now. We've got D-Shield coming out of the Uther, parry Shield Wall. Advanced parry coming out for the Varian. We do have the Dracon Laser Drill coming out for the Tychus again. We've got the Sulphurous Smash coming out for the Ragnaros, and we've got the Temporal Loop for the Chromie. Meanwhile, on the side of the core bouncers, we've got the Twilight Dream for the Malfurion. Black Arrow coming out for the side, or Whirling Arrow coming out for the Sylvanas there. We've got the Black Hole coming out for the Tassadar, the Prism coming out for the Medivh, and Avalanche coming out for the Mei. A really good Avalanche could spell doom for the side of TRSG, but Mei going in, trying to find some sort of fight on this Variant, isn't able to necessarily connect, and everybody's just kind of back their way off. Medivh needing 5 more stacks to get himself fully stacked off. Captain John gonna go ahead and get this camp back on a timer. And the rest of the team gonna go over and start playing defense on their own side. This side of the map favors the side of the core bouncers. If they were gonna be aggressive on any type of play, it would be when they are on this side of the map. Chromie will have to be a little more aggressive with her defensive positioning, setting up some potential, but we do see the Sulphurous Smash landing onto the Mei. Avalanche used for disengage there, being able to catch out the Uther, but there is no follow-up. Sylvanas is nowhere to be found, clearing out that top wave. Varian going in, does not land the taunt to the Medivh. Medivh going back up into bird form, and this is going to be objective channeled for the side of TRSG Knights. They haven't responded to this pressure created in the mid lane. They will have to eventually. Meanwhile, Sylvanas is now here. A lot of ultimates are online for both teams, maybe waiting for this last available ultimate by the Medivh. Hasn't pulled the trigger yet, holding on to it ever so slightly. Ragnaros getting burned fairly low. D-Shield popped onto the Ragnaros, gonna get himself to safety. Meanwhile, Leyline was popped, did not connect, and everybody kind of just running back. The TRSG Knight need 5 more seconds. We do have a stun and a wall going down onto the Varian there. Tassadar putting the burst down, wasn't able to connect. Medivh looking like he wants to play aggressive, did finish off the stacks, gets taunted, protects himself and gets away. Sulphurous Smash says no, and that is a dead Medivh. But the core bouncers did get a nice push into this mid lane. We're able to get the fort. Maybe we'll pick up this health camp. Yes, they do. They will now be in pretty good position right now to be able to clear. Sylvanas already setting up in the top lane, Mei going to this bot lane. The rest of the team should be headed to this potential bot lane. You would want to keep bot lane alive to make sure you have good positioning for at least one boss play. But they're going to defend out this mid lane instead. Unfortunately, with the 3 members here, they can't play too terribly safely around the Variant. Ragnaros now has what he wants to be able to channel. Mei gonna pop the Unstoppable, slide herself to safety. Black Hole used for disengage. The Temporal Loop is popped, but it is not able to pull the target back. This objective is gonna go, but look what's happening in this bot lane. The objective basically gets the bot fort for free, and that is going to be all 3 forts taken by the side of TRSG, setting themselves up for catapults in all 3 lanes. Gonna have map pressure heavily in their favor, even though the experience lead is only about a level. 3 kills to 0. I expected fireworks this game. There's been a lot of fighting. Taryn goes in, lands a taunt very deep onto the Medivh. Sulphurous Smash landing onto the Mei, gets the stun, but unfortunately no follow-up. Ragnaros getting stunned under tower there, getting himself fairly low, has to speed himself to safety there. Mei trying to put down the snowfield to get some sort of stun, does not connect. Everybody else is able to clear out that drill from a safety of their own keep, and everything kind of runs back to safety. Like nobody's really dying. They haven't had a full heavy on commitment. Ragnaros channeling up, gonna be able to get himself in. May getting stunned out here. The protect goes down. Will Medivh be able to give her a portal? There's the portal, but unfortunately May is running away, and the black hole coming out, the ley line being popped, but Tassadar ends up getting popped as well. Varian able to get in deep, find a pick there. Unfortunately, the Medivh is standing right next to the Varian, gets himself taunted up, and this siege comp is doing pretty significant work coming out of TRSG. They're playing this taunt Varian fairly well. They're playing very patient around it. They don't have necessarily the blow up capability yet from the Chromie, still sitting only on 31 stacks, but the Tychus and the Ragnaros are putting down some big damage. I want to see what actually the damage is sitting at right now. Yeah, we've got 31k. I mean, Chromie is leading in the damage. She just hasn't been able to land as many Qs, but Ragnar's putting down a hefty 27k as well. We do have contention over this objective. May jumps all the way on, holding on to the Avalanche. Doesn't have it quite available. 30 more seconds there. Sulfurious Smash going down. Lands on Captain John and Credit Crown. Captain John getting protected here. The fight's still going down. Cherry Glue trades his life for the kill on Captain John. The camp is picked up, and the core bouncers were able to get one kill 4-2, getting a little bit of that comeback experience, but this level lead is now a level and a half. The keep is gone, the objective is online, and core bouncers do not have May and Sylvanas available for another 20 seconds here. Core bouncers have a pretty good siege going to the top lane, but the turrets have infinite ammo, so they will just drill. They also have a pretty good siege going in this bot lane as well. So, you know, those will eventually have to get addressed. Otherwise, that's a lot of experience going down. But, you know, the objective is the ultimate prize for TSG. Chromie's going to go ahead and get that top lane. They know they can soak safely because they have two members of the core bouncers down, so they're not really worried about a potential gauge. They could even potentially go pick up this camp and just delay. You know, the top objective's in a great spot for Chromie to be that delay, but they're electing just to go get this. Meanwhile, core bouncers, it looks like they're going to go ahead and try and sneak this boss in the bot lane. You know, it's going to provide a lot of defense to the bot lane. Then they can just set up a strong defense in the top lane, and that may nullify any potential objective. The mid objective will probably die to the boss with a defense around the boss. So if they can pick up this boss will counteract the pressure in the bot lane. They will be able to answer the push of the objective in the top lane, and they look like they're going to be able to pick this up. The side of TRSG is starting to rotate down. It looks like they're going to just try and heavy push out this middle, but they won't be able to burn the boss. The boss has only lost one of his armor. He's going to need a little more unless you get the entire thing shredded, but we do see them committing to a push now in the bot lane, which is probably the better call. Kill this boss as much as you can and use whatever is left on this objective to burn through this keep. So the core bouncers gonna go set up the defense in the mid lane. Sylvanas committing already to the top lane. 16's now coming online for the core bouncers. Boss is dead. TRSG is pushing here in the bot lane. Core bouncers gonna defend. Remember, the boss, if it doesn't die, regenerates health. This is plenty. They could leave this right now, but here comes TRSG coming in to push in the mid lane. Maybe delay and let the other lanes just kind of get some push, but Sylvanas is doing a pretty good job handling this top lane. And now we do see Sylvanas rotating down to come try and respond. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, the objective is going to pretty much fall. The Siege Minion's going to do hefty work. Varian goes and lands the taunt onto the Medivh. Unfortunately, Medivh can just get himself away. He's one of those slippery characters. Nemesis got chunked out huge by the Chromie there. Now this Chromie's damage is coming online. Varian lands the stun onto the Tassadar to finish him off. Malfurion follows in tow. Uther getting fairly low. It's a three-man ley line coming out of the Medivh. Ooh, Chromie's in a really rough spot, but Credit Cloud knocks him to safety. Unfortunate there. Wasn't able to knock him back into the stun, knocked him away. Captain John's going to get blown up there. Ragnaros landing the Sulfurious Smash for good measure. Medivh getting some serious damage, but May and Medivh just not healthy enough. This boss is now at 6k, 5k, continuing to fall. Varian landing the taunt for good measure, and this looks like it will be game number 2 going over to the side of TRSG Knights. GG's, well played by both teams for sure. TRSG coming out with the 2-0 domination victory, and they played very well tonight, both with a sub in game 1 and with their full strength here in game 2. I mean, they kind of just took the variant and said, "Here, we'll run the taunt variant with the lockdown Uther and make this kind of happen in response." But sitting now at 8-0 in Division D, I believe that puts them at the top, or at least very close to it. Maybe I think there's another team. I think it's Clouded Minds is also sitting undefeated or close to undefeated. So there's going to be an epic match, a big throwdown coming in Division D West here in the foreseeable future. But the side of TRSG Knights having a very good showing here, showing why they are one of the top teams. Core Bouncers, they had composition. Like I said, I was really curious about the Medivh. I think Dan played a pretty decent Medivh there. Got his stacks off, was able to get the saves on a couple characters, but it looks like the macro pressure that the TRSG was able to create in that early game just continued to evolve, getting all three objectives and it's really tough to come back from that. The Core Bouncers did a good job hanging in there through like the level 13, 14 range, but then the TRSG just found that opening, were able to get that mid keep, and once that keep fell, that was the beginning of the end there, and the TRSG just played a very calm, cool, and collected clinic. Let me see if I can get... I'm going to message Howlin real quick, see if I can get this interview. Or maybe I'm getting somebody else for an interview. Hold on real quick. Oh, nope. There we are. Wow, you beat me to it.
I did.
Wow, you are just... I mean, she's like, come on, man. We won our games. I want to get this interview out of the way. Get us to bed early. It's getting late. But
no, honestly, I did this last week too, where I was just like weirdly ahead of the group. I don't know. I was like, I'm here. I'm ready when you guys are.
I'm ready when you are. I was like, man, it's not too often where I'm like looking to be like, okay, I got to send somebody a message for an interview, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm in lobby 1 already. Just get here when you get here. I'm waiting.
Right, like I'm chill. I'll wait when you're ready.
Well, congratulations on your 2-0 victory. For those who don't know, this is Howlin Knight, the Tychus extraordinaire from both games, giving us an interview tonight. Let's walk it back. First off, how's the team feeling right now?
Pretty good. We actually just got our damage dealer this week. Pink, she just joined us, and this was a really good showing.
Oh, so she's new to the team.
She's new to the team, yeah.
Well, how about that? Pretty good performance. She was the Chromium game 2 and the
Task in game 1.
There you go. Yeah, the Task in game 1. Yeah, put down some clutch walls in that game 1 too, I might add. So awesome to see coming in for the fresh blood coming in and delivering a gem 2-0 win over the Division E champions from last season. So not a bad thing to have for your first match. But let's go all the way back to game 1. Game number 1, Braxis holdout. You sent us there, and I was like, oh man, here we go. We're going to Braxis. What was going through the teams? I mean, I know you were sitting there like, guys, what are we doing before the match? Like, where are we going? Eventually settling on Braxis. What was going through the team's mind? How'd you guys kind of approach that game?
Well, our solo laner chair is actually the same person who does all our scouting, and he said we could expect map bans for some combination of Braxis, Cursed Hollow, Battlefield, and Garden of Terror. And then we got the Battlefield, but then Towers of Doom as the other one, and we were like, why would they ban something they seem uncomfortable on? So they decided Braxis was where we were going.
Sure. So it's just like, yeah, we're going to Braxis. Why not?
Right. If they had given us map pick for round 2, we were actually intending to go to Cursed Hollow, just another one that they didn't seem to want to go to.
Yeah.
And when I was banning maps too, I would kind of looked at the 3. They had 3: Volskaya, Infernal, and Alterac, and I was like, well, of those 3, which one do I feel like going to the most? Like, if it gets through.
Yeah, so
it's settled with Alterac.
So gets Alterac, but so we get to Braxis. You guys draft a very safe like backline for. I think they picked the Cassia after you had already picked both of your damage dealers and your front line going with the May and then the Tassadar Tychus combination. When you saw the Cassia come out, were you guys sitting there like, okay, they got to get by our front line, so let's just get extra beef in the front line and kind of just play around that and saving ultimately the last pick for that off lane for I believe it was Thana.
Yes, Thana.
Thana.
Yeah. Um, sort of. Yes. There was also that we noticed in our notes that a lot of their players kind of rotate out of position where they shouldn't be. And we
Mm-hmm.
were like, so we could have a lot of options of team comps, and we just had to kind of decide on what we wanted to do and what they were gonna let us do, in terms of like draft.
And so was that
And
always the draft plan coming in? We want the Tassadar Tychus May, and we're just gonna kind of force them
yeah.
to make mistakes and then let May abuse it, kind of deal.
Partly we also targeted, like the healer and bands, and then we were like, oh wait, this guy likes to
Yeah,
play
that
Tassadar
question was
and
coming later.
Tychus, like got this, like so, yeah, that's what we did,
Okay.
with the intentions of picking a type of comp. If it gets through, we're going for it.
And then Leoric go against Sonya. Seem to be having a good time in the top lane. And then they rotate the Cassie up and rotate down the Sonya in the bot lane. At that point, was Leoric like, no, I got this, just play this one out? Or was there ever a question of like maybe we should switch up our own rotation there and just kind of keep this pressure as best we can?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? For I am ADHD and looked at your chat. It was like, oh no, I did say that, didn't I? And then I toned out part of that question.
Yeah, it was no, it was so they went with the composition. Leoric was matched up against Sonya, having a great time in the top lane, and then they switched up, put the Cassie in the top lane, and put Sonya down in the 4-man. And it seemed like Cassie all of a sudden started having a little momentum. Was Leoric like, no, let's just play for 10 and then we'll, eventually just rotate as 5 and we'll be fine? Or was there like some potential like maybe we should switch it up too going on?
We did discuss it a little bit because we definitely felt the change when they first made it. Where we ended up losing, like the point. They took it
Mm-hmm.
from us. They managed to have a fairly even objective. Instead of panicking about it and being like, all right, well, now what do we do? We just decided, all right, we'll clear theirs. We sent Tassadar to deal with it. And we pushed down bot lane, got the fort, and then swapped the roles. And that sorted itself out, it seemed.
Yeah.
Because then we could just apply pressure on the other side of the map. And they had to kind of decide what they were going to do.
Yeah, getting that fort was pretty crucial, and it really forced them to start reacting to you guys instead of at that point they were trying to switch things up and make you guys respond to them, and it seemed to work for a little bit, but then you guys aggressively got that fort, and that was kind of like I said, kind of the beginning of the end on Braxis. It just kind of started snowballing from there, but pretty dominant showing. I think it was like 14-2 in kills, so overall fairly.
Was it?
It
Who
was
died?
something like that. I don't. Oh, I don't. They had one fight around the boss, or right before the boss that they ended up getting the boss because I think it was Leoric died, and it was either Tassadar. It must have been Tassadar because I know May was there, and I know you were there on Tychus. I'm pretty sure Healer was alive, so it must have been Tassadar Leoric. Um,
Maybe.
and so that's how they ended up getting their boss. But then you guys got the Zergwave, and that ended the boss. So,
Yeah. That
but
actually dealt with it. Yeah.
But then game 2, we go to Alteric Pass, and you guys just banned supports like it was your day job. Like all 3
Get those
bans
healers out of
go
here.
into the healers. I mean, was you didn't do that in game 1, and you knew you were going to give over the Sylvanas, which I'm assuming with your scouting, you knew they were probably going to pick. So
Yeah.
were
We
you
were okay
feeling
with that.
confident against the Sylvanas and just being like, Captain Garbo, we're just going to force you to play? Well, I didn't know. I was assuming the Malfurion because I didn't know what else he had left available. Because I think there ended
Yeah,
up
that
being
was
4
our plan.
support
We were
bans.
like, all right, well, the first 2 bands worked out really well, and we usually save the third one for like a response ban. And they still hadn't had their healer by that point. We were like, well, you know what? We're gonna take that one away from you again too.
Yeah, I was like, you
Oh yeah,
guys.
that Anduin was a denial pick round 1.
Yeah,
So
taking it away from Garbo.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then the Sylvanas getting through. As somebody who's played a lot of Sylvanas, I find that she just is not as effective with this map as you would want her to be, unfortunately. At least not with Merc Queen. There's probably a build that I just don't play
right.
that works on that map, but yeah, the Merc Queen. I wasn't really afraid of that at all. Personally, I can't speak for the whole team, but I wasn't from
Okay.
the auto attacker standpoint.
But then get on Alteric Pass. Seemed like the early game started to favor you guys quite a bit. You're getting the macro pressure established. And it really never felt like you guys ever got uncomfortable. They punched back a couple times, but it felt like, I mean, who was calling shots throughout that entire map to kind of keep everybody just calm? Hey, we got this objective. We see people around the map. I mean, that map was a pretty solid clinic on Alteric Pass right there.
We had pretty open comms, honestly. We had a lot of like macro stuff being pointed out
Hmm.
by myself and by Chair. We had whether or not we were fighting by Chair and by Charlemagne. So like it was sort of everybody. If we're in a fight and we switch targets, it's everyone's responsibility to speak up and let us know what's going on.
Hmm.
There was a couple of calls I know that I made, but without more specifics, I don't really know what else to
Too
point out.
too much more than that. Yeah, don't want to go too heavily into the secret strats, but
Right.
um, yeah, I just noticed that Thana wrote out in the chat
Yeah,
that she
yeah, that's what I
1v1
got
entombed the Cassia.
distracted.
I did actually, I missed it, but I did give her credit because I like saw the kill. I scrolled down to it and I could see like the entomb starting to fade away, and I'm like, because I knew they were dueling, but then like there's a 4v4 fight over the objective, so I'm like, gotta switch up to that real quick. And then I saw Cassia pop, so I was like, I gotta go for respect to that. So I went back down there. I
I
was like,
sure thought it did.
she probably landed the entomb, and I made the comment that like, Sonya can leap out of the entomb, so that's good for her. But if Cassia's caught, Cassia's dead. So nice 1v1. I think she got a couple 1v1 kills. So I was definitely tipping my hat over there to Thana. No disrespect at all. But
Anna
all right.
plays well. He's good at it. He also said he was literally singing Sea Shanty. He was during Alterac Pass. I had to tell him to stop.
That's awesome that you can have that much fun during a competitive match. But getting into it, if you had to pick a MVP for the series, who would you give it to?
um,
Yes, Thana, you're a she. I made you a she, even though you're a he. Deal with it.
deal with it.
Sorry.
God, get over it, Thana. Jeez.
Just embrace your feminine side. I heard you were singing. I sing too, so we got that connection going. But
He's also
yes.
got really nice hair, all right?
All
Like,
right. There we
just
go.
add to this, all right?
We are getting way off track there.
I am.
We're
I'm so
definitely
sorry.
both Thana fanboys and girls here, but
Yeah.
back to the
Yeah.
MVP.
I'd say Pink for coming out and giving us a really good showing on her first game, and she did. She played really well. A lot of clutch walls in the first game, and in the next game, well, we see she didn't die. She did very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Definitely giving it over to the newbie there. Gonna give some
yeah,
respect to it's always tough coming into your first game. Nerves are just a little bit higher as opposed to being like your 14th or whatever, and then you're just like, I'll
right.
start singing in comms during my games instead of worrying about my positioning and all that other stuff. But awesome.
I
Definitely
mean,
agree.
he
Chromie.
sort of multitasks, a little bit of positioning while we sing.
All right. Last things last. I'm going to leave the floor open for you. Give any shout outs. You guys had quite a few fans here in Twitch chat. So anything you want to say, mic's
Did
open.
we? I missed it all. I'm so sad now.
It was definitely in the early parts, but
Well, thank you for casting.
absolutely.
That's always a big one. I want to shout out to my entire team for showing up and playing very very well. We really didn't practice this week, so it's really really good to come in and win with new players and little practice. So yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, Howlett, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh wait,
Oh,
hang on. Thana's correcting me
oh,
here.
oh, here we go.
MVP for Charlemagne for being our tank when no one else wants to be for some reason. Pink for getting poached at the last second. Chair for Scout, Howland for captaining, and Thana for fabulous.
Fabulous hair, fabulous singing voice, just all of it. Fabulous solo kills in the bot lane on Braxis holdout. We love it all. Alrighty, thank you so much for the interview, Helen. Congratulations again, 8-0, keeping the dream alive. Good luck. I know there's another team that's I think undefeated in D West
Clouded
as
minds.
yeah. So
Clouded minds. We're
that's
coming
gonna
for
be
him.
a really fun matchup. Whoever picks that one up, man, everybody's gonna be watching that one because that's gonna be a
Right?
doozy
That
of a
one's gonna be a
series.
lot of fun.
That's gonna be awesome.
I'm
So
looking forward to the rematch. That's what that one is. That's the rematch. Them and Once Upon a Time. Let's do it.
alrighty, let's do it. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. Go enjoy and celebrate with your team. And I look forward to seeing you guys down the road in the playoffs.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks for
care.
having me. Have a good night.
Absolutely. You too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Howlin' Knight, captain. Captain of TRSG Knights, beating me to the punch for the interview. Like, supcaster, get into the interview room. I'm already here and waiting. That was a first. That was absolutely hilarious. But that is it for my series tonight. This has been an awesome week of casting. I definitely enjoyed every match that I've gotten. It's been a lot of fun. Looking forward, I don't actually have my schedule set up. I know last night I said I was going to have it set up and tell you guys all it tonight. I don't. Sorry, work was really crazy today, so I didn't get a chance to start picking up matches. I will definitely pick them up over the weekend, and I'll post it to my Twitch so you can see what's coming up. But like I said, normally my casts are definitely the later game casts, being on the West Coast. So that 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern time is usually the earliest that I will start casting during the week. Weekends, it's out the window. I could cast it whenever. I could cast a morning game if needed. But during the week, it's usually those later games. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking to get at least 2 or 3 in next week. But for tonight, this has been ISX. Fantastic series coming out. Be sure if you want to get notifications when I go live to drop that follow, and I will absolutely send you a message letting you know. But that is it for me tonight. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and I will see you all here next time. Take care, all.